Oh, greetings in the spirit of peace. How are you this lovely morning in California? Yes, it is so lush here. The Midwest is very beautiful. I love the Midwest, and I love Ohio, but wow, I've been frolicking in people's front yards like I'm a spirit fairy. I love it. So yes, my name is Sophia Buggs, and I'm the owner and operator of Ladybug's Farm, located on the south side of Youngstown, Ohio. And real quick, to make the connection of how I've come so far, it is absolutely because of the connection that I had with Annie Oak by way of Kai Wingo, who has transitioned, who is in the mycelium queendom, supporting us in all of our fruiting endeavors. But that was in Cleveland, Ohio, at the Women in Entheogens Conference. It was the very first time that they had done such a thing, and Annie had come all the way to Cleveland to hang out with us, and we bonded. And I never imagined that she would spur on me as a mushroom would spur, and we would just create these other grids and networks, which connects me to you and why I'm here. So before I continue, it is very much so a part of what I would consider my cultural tradition to first say thank you to my ancestors and my spirit guides, who definitely has given me traveling feet to come amongst you and share one of the greatest stories ever told and can only be told by me, which is the story of Sophia Ladybugs. And so my connection to what I'm calling urban agriculture absolutely is tied to the beginning stages of when I fell in love with nature as a child. I grew up playing in a park just down the street from me called Mill Creek Park, which is one of the largest parks that we have in the United States of America. And so we were just told to go play or go outside. We did not use the words like nature or permaculture or even gardening. It was go get the zucchini or go pick the tomatoes. So we just didn't have context or language the way we share it in the world of consciousness and this movement around plants. And so for my entire life or my journey, plants or nature absolutely was the pivotal point for me moving forward or doing something magnanimous, all the way through college, all the way to coming back home. So in Youngstown, Ohio, just a little bit, it's what's considered an old Rust Belt city. It's a credible shrinking city. There was lots of crime, and at this point, there was lots of blight. And because of urban renewal and neighborhood developments, we are cleaning up blight, expanding green space. Commerce is definitely not really coming. What I love about Youngstown is although it is very much a city, it's like a country city because on every vacant lot, there are overgrown species like the rose flora, which people absolutely hate, or Japanese knotweed. I loved hearing Sister Joy stand up and give to you what I'm going to answer the question with, that is urban farming. We are absolutely the wave of the future, where there will be walkable cities because there will be more people, possibly concrete jungles or spaces that have been revitalized into these lush green places, so get ready. And that is the language of urban agriculture because it's absolutely a place where we deal with resistance. It's a place where we can be safe. It's a place where we can survive. It's a place where we can heal, where we can revitalize, where we can reclaim. It's just this space where possibility is endless, which is back in nature. And so you've got some folk in the world who have been disadvantaged or not included in, and we've created our own language, and that's urban agriculture. We're using food to return us all, not just those in urban areas, but all of us, back to what we should be connected to, which is land-based activities and green space. So that's primarily what urban agriculture is. In my own privilege that I have, For me, I live there. That is not something most urban farmers possess. You typically have a lot that you may buy, or you garden on, that you drive to or you go to. But I'm so blessed and fortunate that my gifts of communication kind of allow me to connect with the Mahoning County Land Bank, some neighborhood development organizations, my neighbors, whom I did get permission before I decided to do some hipster weird thing down the street and in front of their houses, like, what are you talking about? Do what? So with all of that collaboration, which is a hot topic for us moving forward in green space, allowed me to have the urban farm that I have, which is located on the back half of my home, which is the next street over. So I'm fortunate enough to wake up and see nature in the middle of the city. And I'm not saying that that's this light and love and this feels so wonderful. It's very daunting. It's difficult often. But nonetheless, it is absolutely my walk of healing. And this was my ancestors' way of getting me to share with you the way you should be encouraged to be the best you. So my talk is not about you needing to be an urban farmer. My talk is about you having your best life, you aligning you to source. Because when I feel good and I do exactly what I'm aligned to do, somehow it's catchy and you'll do the same thing. So let my story be a story of resilience and moving forward, not of woe is me and, oh, I can't believe that. And if you pay a close attention to the TEDx talk that I'll share with you, you'll hear that those moments of grace or those in-between and in meantime spaces, although they could have been difficult, were some of the greatest triumphants in my life. It's called an avatar having a very interesting experience on this planet. A feeling. And it's okay that it's uncomfortable, because that uncomfort or that discomfort typically is the next crystal stairway or the next leading tone in to your greatest self. So don't resist it. It's okay. That's why I think this space is so amazing, because there are plants that can help support those endeavors. They should not be illegal. Plant medicine is the people's medicine. Point blank, period. But in order for us to make that law, we have to all unanimously agree. It don't need to be signed or in black and white. We just have to decide as a collective that it's free. That's it. Just make a decision. So that decision that you're going to make is absolutely only for you, to have radical self-love and let your healing do exactly what my healing is doing for me, which is igniting you to be the better you. So, as an urban farmer, I'm also considered a specialty crop grower. Specialty crop as in growing fruits, vegetables, herbs, and edible flowers, and a variety of shrubs for sale at market. But because I do so much activism in the city of Youngstown, I don't always have a lot of time to be outdoors. So the last couple of years, because of an unfortunate farmers market no longer being there, I decided to just sell to a couple chefs, which for me worked out a lot more better, because that way I didn't have to stand at a market all day and debate why my cucumbers and my tomatoes are much more expensive than Walmart's. That's a whole nother conversation when it comes to you absolutely getting what you deserve as a grower or as someone who spent time to provide people with high quality foods. California gets it, but where I'm at, we're still trying to convince people that you shouldn't eat stagnant food or dead food. You should always eat food that's alive. And just because we are saying we're vegetarian and vegans, that doesn't make your food more alive than those who are not. See, we're talking about vibration in this life that I call urban agriculture. It is vibration that has aligned me to this, because as Sister Joy was mentioning, you as an urban farmer or someone who has been possibly in some areas of disadvantagement, you have to create your own language to navigate your truth. You absolutely have to be aware that the words that they use, like food desert, poverty, high teenage rate, drugs, poor neighborhoods. How many boxes do I have to check off before I finally get to my well-being and my joy? These are the boxes that we will have to check off to get assistance in these areas. You literally have to admit that you're nothing for them to say, okay, now I'll give you something, right? So that was her point to saying that we no longer emote or respond to those names that negate who we are, because we are now clear of our work and we are moving forward to provide the great alignment that we're trying to mimic, which is pure, positive joy connected to source energy. Each and every one of us, black, white, tall, thin, plant, not. If you are living, you are just as important to source as I am. So as a specialty crop grower and an urban agricultural person, I don't know if this is still on, okay. I'm also someone who sits on a couple boards, and doing so, I'm able to kind of navigate the voice of the people, per se, and in doing that, I'm also very much so spiritually connected to plants, and so they do call me Mama Sophia, a spiritualist root worker, psychic clairvoyant, where I also work at the local apothecary cult store, where I offer spiritual consultations, and 98% of that work is around plants and me recommending plants for people. I'm a home herbalist that has her own blends and balms and healing salves that uniquely was given to me for me to help the people. And it's also triggering my mind to also share that the last time I was here 3 years ago at Congress, prior to coming to California, I was closing up my farm and I stepped in a groundhog hole and I really did some damage to my knee for the first time. And as the only grower on my space, when the only farmer is down, that is such a daunting disappointment. And I had to get on a plane and walk 1,000 miles to these flights and gateways that I was supposed to catch planes to. So, long story short, I remember sharing with, I don't know if it was Danielle, could have been Kira, that I'd hurt my knee, and in doing so, immediate Reiki and balms and salves was being offered from the participants at that conference. And other magical things was gifted to me for my knee. I can attest to Maya Blow and her tree salve that absolutely helped my knee completely get together, on top of another magical gift that was given to me by Kira to help strengthen that. My knee is better than the other knee. The other knee got to catch up with that knee now. So I'm very, very grateful for making that connection about balms and salves. And this is what we do as urban growers. We have our own unique blends that's only unique to us because of the plants and what they offer on the lands in which we steward. And I'm also, just recently, I can't believe I did it, but I did it. I'm calling it a position, not a job, because I don't work for people. But it is the Mahoning County Food Access Coordinator position. And it's one of the sweetest positions, I think, in our food justice movement in Ohio, where we have major food insecurities connected to literacy and poverty and all these other things. And I sit right sweet in the middle of foundations and city and state and regional funding, where we can allocate the right dollars to grassroots efforts, people who I know who stopped participating because the word hope was given to them too many times with no real result. So I did say to them, and this is the first time ever in my life I've interviewed like I knew I was going to get the job, be careful if you really want to hire me, because I've already been chosen by my ancestors and the people. This right here, whether you pay me or not, is what I'll do, and the job's going to get done well. And I was asked a few times about conflict resolution, how I'd handle no, but I can't be told no anymore. My folk are hungry. The people are hungry, right? So it was, the struggle that I've been to is equipping me with the passion that is needed to figure out either where this funding is going or give more support in areas where they can be more flourishing in the works that they're doing. I really, 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 really want to bring back to life the community gardens in our area. Because when I started as a grower, getting an Ohio State specialty crop apprenticing, the grassroots folk were meeting in the gardens, and I was sitting at their feet, listening to some of the stories and the traditions on how to grow collards and how to grow okra and how you do season extension without hoop houses. It was so much love, and then because funding, they were all dismantled. So I would love to bring that back because that was a great way for both city, sector, foundations, nonprofits, and the people to actually come together in a space to chat. My most recent project as Lady Buggs Farm, not just growing on my own space, but providing education other places. I do cooking classes as well. But Martin Luther Lutheran Church asked me to come and do a garden initiative, and it is called the Healing Garden. And it is so cosmically delicious that I can't believe that it's happening. This is our second year. It started out as 10 weeks of gardening twice a week. First 30 minutes, we have a theme. We have a chat about what we feel that word is. The last 2 words was love and peace. There are no right or wrong answers. And we all peer-to-peer just share. And then after that, we garden. And typically the subject lingers while you're gardening. And then after we garden, we fellowship with a snack. And then we chat about that word again. And it has helped so many people. I thought initially it was going to help more so battered women, but I realized so many people in Youngstown have been traumatized that, you know what, this garden is for everybody. And so it's a unique experience. You do not have to do the full 10 weeks. Come as you like, come when you will, but it is very, very well received for the fact that it's collaboration, myself, the faith-based community, and the community at large. And now we've extended that to 3 more classes with a little bit more funding. So it's working. I know gardens can be really tough because people have to either have that it factor or you have to be self-motivated to kind of keep going, right? So in doing that, I want to ignite and create other people like myself to continue that work. So doing things like the Healing Garden, working with Mahoney County Food Access Coordinator folk, doing that kind of work, I think will equip me with the right tools to better reach the people, to help them have the confidence to speak up for themselves. And this is a place we could intersection social services for people right there in the gardens. I mean, I heard gardens so many times here, and I was just so excited because gardening is more than just growing plants, people. Nature has already figured it out. I tell people, just get to the garden so you can listen. Just show up how you are. Whatever you got, just go to the garden and just wait and listen. You know, you show up and the grandmothers are already waiting for you, kind of thing, you know? And it's a very magical thing that happens. And I do know for the healers in the world, and this in the audience, and the growers who are overstressed doing the work, we sometimes have our own barriers where we're growing medicine, but we're not processing it for ourselves. Don't forget the story and the journey. It's about you. I can only be well if you are well. That's that radical self-love. Knowing when to say no and absolutely taking your own medicine. The plants that grow in your front yard, side yard, pots, next door, your grandma's house, the lady you love, the man you just left, those plants were all there saying, I'm for you. This is your medicine. When you ask permission to take those medicines in, they help give you the tools needed to get through all the bullshit you got to navigate in the world. That is real. And if you're ready to really be open and take this conference serious and to frolic with nature, I encourage you to do it. Eat 1 leaf a day. That's all. Just 1 little wild leaf a day. And watch you change. I promise. That's something to look forward to. So I want to share with you that I just recently also did a TEDx talk, and that was in November of 2018. I'll get a chance to talk with you individually how I got to that point, but I absolutely wasn't ready to stand in my power, and I was absolutely afraid, and I didn't want to do it, but somehow I leaped and I did it. I'm the owner and operator of Buggs Farm, located on the south side of Youngstown, Ohio, a very small urban homestead where I live very wonderfully with my daughter, Passion. But before I move forward and share something beautiful, I would like to pay homage to those who've come before me, those whose shoulders I am standing on. And so I'd like to have a little libation moment here with this amazing plant. So in doing so, I'm going to call upon ancestors who I feel have supported me the most. And you too are welcome to join in silence if you like. This is a way of saying thank you. I'd first like to say thank you to Hattie Adams, Hattie Ruth, Helen Wickfall, Mary McLeod Bethune, Fannie Lou Hammer, and a very dear and special urban farmer who I love very dearly, Kai Wingo, IE. Give thanks. Thank you. So, I'd like to share something with you about what I consider the spiraling movement, or ancestral wisdom, grace, plant medicine. Ancestral wisdom, plant medicine, and grace all saved me. Ancestral wisdom, as in those who've come before me, as in those whose shoulders I'm standing upon. The lands that I farm were once governed and lived there by people who highly love their community, and I'm fortunate enough to be there. So when I say ancestors, I mean the memories, the mystery, the quiet moments, the stories, the relics that I hold very near and dear to me as I've been moving forward. And when I give a little talk about grace, grace has everything to do with the in-between and in the meantime spaces. The that of girls, the get back up, times is a little troubling. But I must share too that the Lutheran consider, and not that I'm Lutheran, that there is doctrine prior to experiencing grace. There is an understanding on knowing. I'm gonna say that my understanding and knowing is definitely who I am and where I've come from, hence ancestral wisdom. And then we're gonna move forward into something I call plant medicine. Plant medicine as in these living, biospheric, amazing beings have always been present in my life, in your life. But somehow, in my metamorphosis, I've discovered that they've always been there supporting me. Therefore, I consider it to be medicine that these plants are offering. It is in my belief that well-being is eminently tied to the soil, and that urban agriculture is a spiraling movement that fosters relations with the mycelia landscape and human beings. I'm gonna say that again, because that's a mouthful. It is absolutely in my belief that well-being is tied to the soil, and that urban agriculture is the spiraling movement that fosters relationships with the mycelia landscape and human beings. Ancestral wisdom, grace, and plant medicine saved me. So I'll take you on a little journey. It wasn't until my grandmother transitioned that it kind of became very apparent to me that plants were something that kind of always been a part of me. Hence why I say that I am a fourth generational grower. I come from a people who had backyard cooking, gardens, fishing, playing in a park, outdoor experiences, drinking from the water hose. And these are all outdoor experiences that may have never necessarily been called nature or plant medicine. However, they're a very important part of who I am and what I possess. My grandmother, after transitioning, sent me a message that no matter what, make sure that you stay connected to nature. She and I had this very special thing. We often would talk about the birds. She would often treat the Weather Channel as if it was a sitcom. And we'd kind of just discuss the difference between northeastern Ohio's weather as opposed to Florida's weather, where I was residing at the time. And so it was my grandmother, who is that ancestor, who's always reminded me to stay true to who I am, stay true to my roots, and do the thing that you know the most. And making those connections while matriculating through college, it had definitely dawned on me that myself and peers, we weren't having that conversation about food, where it came from, and how it mattered to each and every one of us. Somehow, food was just not the topic. Not just food, but the things that we make stuff from, or our plants, dried ornamentals, bouquets of flowers. Wasn't really a conversation around farming or food. It kind of just was there. So I started asking questions. How does nature play a very important role in my life, or a very important role in my peers' life? And it was often met with resistance. You see, in our culture, often food could be used as a weapon against a group of people that look like me. And so you find certain folk not having that conversation about how food can be medicine, or how food can be healing, how food can be nourished. But we do hear conversations around food insecurity and how there are communities who are without high quality foods or nourishing foods. It was after my grandmother transitioned and I lost 2 of my amazing jobs that sent me back to Youngstown, sent me back home from Florida. And there I decided I wanted to rekindle my grandmother's garden and her zucchini bread, something that was very, very famous amongst people in the community as well, the family. So I want to say that this was my blooming time, just like this amazing mullein flower you see here. This was my time that I started blooming and coming into the notion that there was something about me that wasn't necessarily well. Depression, not making enough money or making ends meet for my own legacy. Something that many of us face every day. But somehow, that thought, with my grandmother creating a garden or her zucchini bread, led me to realizing that there was hope, that I could also have well-being, or even have my best life possible. So that's what I did. After working on my master's in education, focus was curriculum instruction, and most of the work in my master's I did around well-being, the olfactor and children and adults, and how aromatherapy works, how possibly using meditation in nature as opposed to detention in our school systems. These were all things that were tied to what I consider the plants or plant medicine. And again, my grandmother always ringing in the back of my mind, how these were important things that led me to myself, led me back to making really positive decisions, and ultimately feeling well or being well. So I got caught up into the wave of doing what my grandmother did, which is create this zucchini bread. Why did I do that? Because then I realized you gotta grow zucchini, right? So there I did, in my backyard, 13 kiddie pools, growing zucchini and herbs and tomatoes and cucumbers. And I found that in growing all of those plants, those diversified, beautiful plants, I found clarity. My knees were feeling better. I all of a sudden found a sense of confidence and even got my beauty back. Something about nature was doing it. And one thing for sure is nature made me feel amazing so amazing that I was able to take hold of my own lifestyle, my own decisions, and decide, I can read and write and add and subtract. Maybe I should be doing this work for myself. And that's when I decided to look over the fence and say, maybe I need more kiddie pools. No. I decided to look over the fence, make a connection with the land bank, and move forward with growing. And this is where I was able to partner with wonderful organizations that gave me an opportunity to learn how to be a better grower in Northeast Ohio. I took that education, coupled with my master's, coupled with my undergrad in criminal justice, and used those experiences to help and heal my own community. So not only was I helping and healing my own community with my own education, it was appearing to me that this was more than just my past education experiences. This was also the calling upon, the honoring of, the thanking, the being mindful, and being aligned with who I was, ancestral wisdom. And the grace, again, was the in-between and the meantime spaces where, do I want a second career? Is this exactly what I want to do? Am I really good at this? Absolutely. As my grandmother said, anything you put your mind to, you can do and you can accomplish. Because I considered myself not looking like most people think, a farmer. And when I introduce myself to this day, as my title is Farmer or Urban Farming, people often forget because I don't look like the traditional farmer. But I'll promise you this much. I look like many of the food workers that are out there, many of the farmers globally and locally, many of the food educators, many of the people in restaurants, in the fields. I am the face of food. I look like many of the folk on the front line working tirelessly to make sure that we have high quality, sustainable food. So I do look like a farmer, and I am a farmer, as my grandmother would say. So taking in ancestral wisdom, using the in-between and the meantime spaces, I figured there's something magical about this thing. It's my threes, which is my lucky number, which I consider very magical. My first threes was losing my grandmother, losing two amazing jobs. One, teaching at a really beautiful school, public speaking, and the other was lactation consultant. And when I lost those jobs, I thought I had lost my own identity and myself. But I took that work, put it into a newer experience, and the newer experience absolutely had to be realizing there's grace. There was prior knowledge and the knowing that I am exactly where am I supposed to be. That led me to the last part of it, plant medicine. I was fortunate enough to take a couple of classes on plant medicine and how these amazing living organisms impact each and every one of us in a way more than what you think, not just for eye beauty, but internal beauty, for wellness, for clarity, for headaches, for joint pains. These amazing living beings, I got to know on a whole nother level, hence why I call them plant medicine. So, with those threes, my question is, because what I'm saying, well-being is afoot for you too. How do you get well-being? How will you find it in your life? What are your threes? Will you be growing in kiddie pools? Will you be supporting small, sustainable farming? Will you have houseplants? Will you grow microgreens? This is a way that you too can participate in what I consider the threes, or aligning you to your greater purpose, because it is absolutely important for each and every one of us to experience well-being, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones and your community at large. So this is something I'm definitely recommending, those amazing threes. In also recommending those amazing threes, I want to emphasize again that I believe that well-being is eminently tied to the soil, and that urban agriculture is the spiraling movement that fosters relationships with the mycelia landscape and human beings. I know you heard yourself in that thesis. I know you felt yourself in that description. We are all in that description. We all participate in agriculture or nature in some shape, form, or fashion. But what I'm challenging you to do is create more of it. Participate in more of it. Welcome more of it so that we can have the best planetary experience that we have all had and will continue to have. Supporting small agriculture, supporting anything that is considered eco-friendly. You know the line, you know the song, you know how to be green. We're in a space where green space is paramount, and you are the active participants. So if I say I'm the face of food, because I know you're doing the same things I do, you too are considered the face of food. I would also like to leave you with a small chant that Buffy St. Marie shared with us some time ago. It's just my little version of something I'd like for you to consider. And it's about how we are all coming together as a collective and how it's majorly important that each and every one, just like the soil in all of its diversity, come together to create a very healing, loving space for us all. It's called We're Climbing. We are climbing, climbing together, onward, inward, creature to creation. Holy mystery, this is sacred. We are spiraling, spiraling together, onward, inward, creature to creation. Holy mystery, this is nature. We are sacred. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste. Thank you.